than you are in Australia right now.
You're talking NBA basketball. You're talking great teams. You're talking great individual players.
Takes it off, and there's number 23, and of course Johnny goes nuts.
So I'll get goosebumps thinking about it now.
I just tried to go out there and play my game.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Adam. I don't like anybody. I'm not a people person.
Strand, you made the pass, yes. Christian, can you catch the ball? Yes.
All the stars were aligned and all the muscles fired at the right time, and I was able to get off the ground and throw one down.
I was saving that as a surprise for you.
And now, introducing your host for In All Airness, Adam Ryan.
Welcome to episode 1. Thanks for joining me. Go to inallairness.com for show notes and plenty more features. The social hub for the podcast is facebook.com/inallairness. If you haven't already, please like the page and join the growing community of fans. Add the podcast to your RSS feed or iTunes so you never miss another show. It's also available on Stitcher, BlackBerry, Player FM, TuneIn Radio, and numerous other podcatchers. I love hearing from listeners. On either site, you can send voicemail comments or questions. With your permission, I'd love to include your feedback on future episodes. You can follow me on Twitter at inallairness.
3-time NBA champion, 2-time Olympian, a EuroLeague champion, a member of many Hall of Fames in Canada, a member of the St. John's University Hall of Fame as well. Need I say more? Bill Wennington, thank you very much for joining me today.
Adam, it's a pleasure to be here.
I really appreciate you coming on. It's just fantastic. So, Bill, you were born in Montreal in the province of Quebec. Can you just perhaps explain to me and the listeners what the sporting environment was like when you were growing up and if basketball was even a popular sport at that time?
Well, actually, I started playing hockey until I was about 12 years old. I was a defenseman. In Montreal, hockey, and in Canada, hockey is the game. Still is today, but back then even more so.
Definitely.
Really, I had not touched a basketball until I was about 12 years old. Okay. And I was rather tall, 6'2". Basketball, as I said, was kind of a second sport. This hockey, baseball, even soccer at the time was in Canada is bigger than basketball was. But things have changed a little bit now. Basketball is much bigger. They've had 2 professional teams in the NBA. They actually have a new basketball league, Canadian basketball league, going across the country now. It's like I don't want to call it a minor league, but it's similar to a minor league in basketball. But they got a few teams out there and they're playing. So basketball is much more popular now, but still in Canada it's not as big as it is. Obviously in the United States or the rest of the world, the European world, basketball is very big also. Canada is still lacking a little bit behind there. But I got into it and I loved it and stuck with it.
I guess it always helps being 6'2" at the age of 12. That's a fairly good way to get you into the sport too.
Yes, it is. And it helped me out tremendously.
Yeah, sure. Now, when you mentioned the Canadian League just a moment ago, the Basketball League, did I read right the other day that former Chicago Bull Cliff Livingston is going to be head coach of one of those teams? Is that correct?
You know, I hadn't read that. I've been out on a vacation, but I wouldn't be surprised. Cliff has been involved in basketball for a long time, and I know he's been in the Chicago area working with the Retired Players Union, and I know that he loves the game, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's up there.
Yeah, sure. I'm pretty sure I read about that, but I'm not 100% sure, so I might not. That might prove me wrong. I might just mention the inevitable thing, the Michael Jordan connection.
Who's he?
Yeah, exactly. I think you may be familiar with him. You are familiar with who he is?
I've vaguely heard him. I don't know.
I believe that your first interaction with Jordan was back in 1981 when you were both members of the same McDonald's All-American or the All-American team when you played your game in Wichita in Kansas. Is that correct? Is that the first time you had any dealings with MJ?
1981, yes. It was McDonald's All-American. We were both on the same team. It was a lot of fun. Another player, you might know, Chris Mullen was there, just inducted to the Hall of Fame 2 years ago. That was a lot of fun, that tournament. And Michael's a very loyal guy, remembers all the guys he's played with, respects everyone. And those games were a lot of fun for a couple of high school guys. A lot of fun.
And he had some absolute standout players that were part of that team, including, I think, Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, Patrick Ewing was there. Now I'm going blank, Actually, Michael's longtime friend, Buzz Peterson, who is coach now, was there. John Concat was there. Adrian Branch was on our team. Milt Wagner. It was some good players. Some great college players and a few good pros.
Yeah, definitely. And also, when you mentioned Chris Mullen, in a moment I'm going to ask you about St John's. So he obviously became a teammate with you at St John's as well. So that would be a special link that you shared going back many, many years now.
Yes, Chris and I were roommates as freshmen at St. John's, and one of my most memorable nights in my life was that first night at St. John's. Chris and I were roomed together. We stayed up till about 4 o'clock in the morning, not doing the usual things you would think college freshmen were doing. We actually stayed up just talking about life in general, what we wanted to accomplish, where we wanted to go, and winning a Final Four with St. John's. Unfortunately, that didn't happen for us, but pretty much everything else has.
So that's fantastic. Am I right to believe that as each of your 4 seasons, because you played through to your senior year, you made the tournament every year?
Yes, we made the NCAA tournament each year, yes.
So that's
1985 being the best, going to the Final Four, but then losing to Georgetown.
And that was Patrick Ewing's Georgetown, I guess, at that stage.
Yes, it was Patrick Ewing. They had won the NCAA tournament in 83 or 83. A very good team. And then 1985 was a good year because 3 Big East teams made the Final Four. And Boston College had lost in the Sweet 16 to Memphis by 2. And then I don't remember who Memphis beat, but they clobbered somebody to get to the Final Four. And we were a game and 2 points away from being a Final Four Big East, which was nice because Michael Adams was on that team, Boston College at that time.
Yeah, Michael Adams is obviously an NBA product and very quick, fast around the court.
Yes.
Yeah. One thing I did find very interesting when I was doing a bit of research about you before we started chatting, you were a member of the 1983 World University Games team for Canada, playing against the USA. Canada actually won the gold medal. Can you perhaps
yes.
a little bit of information about that? Because I believe you played against possibly Karl Malone and Charles Barkley, who were part of the USA team. Is that correct?
That is correct. And Michael Jordan was there, Sam Perkins, my college teammate Chris Mullen. It was a great tournament. It was in Canada, and we ended up matched up against the USA in the semifinal game.
Okay.
And it was a great game. We ended up winning that, and then went on to win the gold medal. And that was a lot of fun. Of course, the next year in the Olympics in Los Angeles, when I was on the Olympic team, we came in 4th. Didn't fare quite as well, but that tournament was a lot of fun, and Canada did very well.
Yeah, okay. So I didn't actually realise that Jordan was also a part of that 1983 team. So it's very hard to find information about it online. So that's very interesting.
I think the U.S. records have pretty much stricken that. It's just gone.
It doesn't exist because they lost.
Yes.
All right. So in 1984, speaking of the Olympics, Canada, your team did play the USA early on in the first round of games. Is that correct?
Yes, we did, and we didn't do well.
Now, what were your recollections? So it was played at the LA Forum, I believe. Is that true?
Yes, it was. Now, you know what? That was a very good team also. I had all college players, Patrick Ewing, Chris Mullen, Joe Klein, Sam Perkins was on that team. It was a very good team. They played very well, and they deserved to win that one, that gold medal also, because it was for us, it was a great tournament. Canada came in 4th. We were disappointed. Thought we could have done better than that, but again, wonderful tournament in Los Angeles, the Olympics. I highly recommend playing the Olympics for anyone if you ever have a chance, the opportunity to do it, no matter what sport it is. Just a phenomenal feeling to compete for your country.
I can only imagine, so I'm very envious on many counts. In relation to your time at St. John's, were you also on the same team with Mark Jackson?
Mark Jackson came in. Mark's 2 years younger than I am.
Yeah.
So I played 2 years with Mark. Mark's a phenomenal point guard. Loves to pass the ball, has great hand quickness, had good foot speed, could shoot the ball fairly well, but could really go anywhere on the floor, but loved to pass the basketball any way he could, loved to get assists.
quite showy too back then, even as a college player?
Mark Jackson has always been showy. It's gonna be very interesting to see as we see more of him in the NBA as a head coach, how he contains himself as far as the showiness goes. But is a great basketball mind, is a real people person, is a great man.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I used to love watching when he'd do certain plays. He'd obviously give a bit of a shimmy and start showing to the fans and making sure that everybody knew what he did. But he did some great passes and he could back up his play, which was the most important thing.
Oh, absolutely. He was not going to be the conventional two-hand chest pass, Mark Jackson. No, it was going between his legs, behind his back, over his shoulder, some way to get to you, but he was going to get you the ball.
Yeah, no doubt. In relation to your NBA career, you were in the 1985 draft and you were picked at number 16 by the Dallas Mavericks. So you were coming off a strong senior year at St. John's, averaging about 12.5 points, six rebounds. So you were picked up at number 16. So can you just perhaps explain your recollection of draft day?
Oh, draft day at that point, I wasn't 100% sure who was going to draft me. I knew there were 3 teams in the running that liked me. Obviously, the Dallas Mavericks, the Denver Nuggets, and also the Utah Jazz. Utah Jazz picked at 13, and they picked a player. I don't know what the heck they were thinking. Karl Malone. I can't believe they picked him, but it happens. Everybody makes mistakes,
for sure.
And and we all know how that turned out for Karl Malone, the mailman.
Yes.
One of the best power forwards in the NBA to play, and just a terrific player in person. But that worked out well for him. And so Dallas ended up picking me at 16, and then Denver picked Blair Rasmussen at 17. And then Dallas had another pick, I think it was 18 or 19. It was Uwe Blab, 7'2" player from Germany who just had graduated from Indiana University. And I was going to Dallas, where I really didn't know a whole lot about them. I knew they had some good players. Mark McGuire, Rolando Blackman were there. They didn't really have a big center that was named that. Wallace Bryant was there at the time. So I felt I had an opportunity and thought it would be good to go. But as I got there, my rookie year, they traded for James Donaldson, 7'2", guy who was playing with the Seattle Supersonics before that. But James was just a big man, took up a lot of space, good defender in a low post, had nice little low post moves, but just at 7'3" was just a behemoth down low, and was actually a good player for the Mavericks at the time. So kind of tightened things up for me, but it was fun. It was a very good experience.
Yeah, and James Donaldson, probably one of the few human beings on earth who can make you look small, I guess.
Well, he and Shaq do a good job. Do a very good job, as did Mark Eaton.
Oh, yeah, true. He was about 6'4", wasn't he?
Big Sean Bradley were some other big guys, and Manute Bol were guys playing with at the time. So some people are huge. I don't know how they could be so big.
It's definitely an asset for some people, that's for sure. Now, your first game, I believe, I've been looking at basketballreference.com, one of my favorite websites I like to check out, and your first game was against the LA Lakers. But Magic Johnson apparently didn't play that game. I had a look at the box score, and he actually wasn't there. Can you recall your first game as a Maverick?
Well, Magic Johnson's a great player, but as a center, you're always looking, and at that time, especially to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Mm-hmm. And, he's an idol of all big men at the time, if you're a post player, with his hook shot. And, I went out there and I recalled, everybody knows he has the sky hook in a low post. And Dick Motta, our coach, had talked about keeping him out of low post, keeping further away so our forwards could have a chance to come in and help out a little bit when he gets the ball. So I remember bumping him down and out to almost a 3-point line. And thinking to myself at the time, I've done a great job. This is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I've seen him. I'm playing against him. I'm doing a great job. From about 18, 20 feet away, he turned and swished, nothing but net, a sky hook. And I'm thinking to myself, how do you stop that from 20 feet away?
Exactly.
You can't. I was so disappointed because I thought I'd done so well to bump him off the box and get him about 15, 20 feet away from the basket. and he just turns and does one of his patent sky hooks up over me for a swish.
Very hard to guard, almost the unguardable move. I guess everyone's been saying over the years that that skyhook was the toughest shot to block, and it's obviously a baptism of fire for you in your first game.
Yeah, absolutely, it was tough, and he had a great career and has been around basketball a long time and has helped out several players since then. But Kareem was definitely a legend and really tough to guard.
Now, I've been in this further research. I was looking at the Mavs wiki. Now, I know you can't believe everything you read online, and if you do, you shouldn't believe everything you do. It says on here on the Mavs wiki in relation to Bill Wennington, it says that you used to regularly whip the reunion rowdies into a frenzy with towel waving from the bench, creating a lasting impression in the hearts of Mavs fans. Is that even close to being true?
It is absolutely the truth. My first 2 years, basketball in Dallas was pretty big at the time. The Mavericks were good. They were just come into the league, an expansion team in 1980. Mm-hmm. The fans loved it. They got very excited to come out to the game. And I realized in one game, I was talking to Harold Nealing, the fans were mimicking whatever I was doing. When I stood up and clapped, a few fans stood up and clapped. I clapped over my head like this. A few hands clapped. So I took a bench towel and said, during the game, I'm cheering. I waved a towel, and a few fans took off their sweaters and jackets and started waving their coats. The next game I did it, and a few fans had brought towels. From that, it was born, and it just came out. So it was a lot of fun back then.
It always seems like you've had a really good personality and been very open to the fans and very media friendly as well. So I can imagine it's happening.
I have no idea what you're talking about, Adam. I don't like anybody. I'm not a people person, and I can't believe that you got me up this early in the morning and you're staying up that late in Australia to do this.
It's sort of crazy, isn't it? Who would have thunk? The next thing I'd like to ask you about is following your time with the Mavericks, you spent one season with the Sacramento Kings, and arguably by the numbers at that stage in your career, it was probably your best set of numbers. You're averaging about 6 points and 4 boards in only about 18 minutes a game. But unfortunately, it was on a losing team. Can you maybe just give us a quick recap of what you thought about your time with the Kings?
It was funny because when I was in Dallas, Detlef Schrempf, Uwe Blob, and myself, and a couple other rookies that were coming through at the time, always talked about what's better, not playing on a good team or playing on a bad team. Mm-hmm. And obviously money is an important thing. If you're not playing your next contract, it could be hard to make get the money that you think you're worth or that you want or need. But as far as just basketball, if you're at least playing a little bit, it's better to play a little on a good team than a lot on a bad team. And that was one of the worst years of my NBA career as far as team chemistry and just everything going. We won one road game the whole year and only 25 games the whole year. And it was tough. It was very taxing on me mentally. Basketball became not fun. Mm-hmm. And I actually went to Europe after that year because I was seriously thinking about not playing anymore. But my agent and a few other people told me, you can't give up. You got to keep playing. I'd been, it says 6 years. I was about 28 years old, 29 years old. I'd played 6 years in the NBA, which is about, if you played 3 years at the time, about the average. So I'm starting to think, geez, this isn't fun anymore. So I went over to Europe for 2 years in Bologna and rekindled the fire, so to speak.
Well, that leads beautifully into my next line of questioning, because I was going to ask you about your time over in Italy, and you played for 2 full seasons. Is that correct for that team?
2 full seasons for Virtus Nor in Bologna. And at the time the sponsor was Nor, but it's the Virtus team. There are 2 teams in Bologna, and I was on the older, more established team. And just had a wonderful time with my wife and my son, who was born the year I went there. And obviously on a good team, had a lot of fun, got the joy of the game back, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. That's great, because I had no idea that you're possibly mulling over retirement from the NBA and just calling it a day. But it's good to see that when you went over to Italy, you rekindled your love for playing again.
Yeah, it was fun. I was on a good team, and I was playing a lot over there. The Italians over there expect a lot out of their Americans. I was on a team that actually didn't have another American player on it, so I was playing with each year I had a different former Yugoslavian player, one from Slovenia, one from Serbia, and really had fun playing over there. I actually had a high school teammate that went to my high school, Augusto Bonelli, who was a 7-foot guy, also started. He was actually 7'2", and he started the center spot, and I started a power forward spot. And we had a lot of fun. I ended up winning the Italian championship my second year there, so just a great experience.
Oh, that's fantastic. And I believe, because I had a look at some YouTube clips and tried to do a bit of research to sort of see what I could find of that era, and players like Sasha Danilovic and Tony Kukoc and other former or future NBA players like Darryl Dawkins and Michael Thompson, Terry Teagle, the Bulls' own Pete Myers, all those sort of guys were playing around that sort of time as well.
I played against them all. As a matter of fact, I played with Sasha Danilovic on my team the second year.
Okay.
And we beat Tony Kukoc's team in the finals for the Italian championship, Benetton, in '92 to win the championship.
Oh, that would have been very, very sweet. Did you end up giving any intel or anything to the Bulls management down the line when it came to actually getting Kukoc to sign with Chicago?
No, they had already done their homework, and they had been watching him play, because the next year we were both on Chicago together. We came to camp at the same time.
Okay, because
they were very well aware of Tony Kukoc over there, and who knows, may have seen me playing over there also, because they did invite me to camp the next year.
Yeah, well, again, that also leads beautifully into my next line of questioning, which is about your time getting onto the roster for the Bulls. I believe from somewhere I read online, you were initially offered perhaps a 10-day contract or a very short-term contract with the Bulls, and that eventually rolled over and over again until it turned out to be about a 6-year career with the Bulls.
Yes, I went to Summer League that year with the Portland Trailblazers, and while I was there, they'd signed Chris Dudley, and they had a young center they had drafted the year before that they liked very much. Even though I did well in Summer League, I just didn't feel good about my chances there. Something was pulling me towards when Chicago offered a camp. It was just a 1-month contract. They were going to cut me at the end of November. And in training camp, Scott Williams got hurt. In an early game in November against Houston, I got an opportunity to play some extended minutes, did very well. And I guess that just opened up Phil Jackson's eyes a little bit more to me and started playing me a little bit more. And by the end of the season, I was the backup center.
That's fantastic. It's a great story how you just became a member of the team just after the initial not even being sure if you'd be part of the team past the first month.
Well, as I said, Italy did a lot for me. It boosted my confidence, but I just got to play a lot. It really did help with my timing on rebounding and blocking shots. And I always had a jump shot. And I remember one game, Phil Jackson pulled me up and said, get out, go out there, you're going in. Oh, and we need you to shoot. I've never been the main option on a team. At St. John's, since high school, at St. John's, it was Chris Mullen, Walter Berry were always in front of me. So I was the third option, the guy the release valve, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And I had a coach saying, we need you to shoot the ball. I was like, I can do that.
That's a welcome change to hear that, I'm sure, too.
Oh, yes.
Because you have a very reliable jump shot. Like one of the things from watching all the different game tapes and things, because I've got a pretty good collection of games of your Bulls era, and you were a very reliable jump shooter from 15, 17 feet, either on the baseline or just out near the elbow, wherever it might be. And you were relied upon on many times to hit some big baskets.
Oh yeah, that was in the offense, the triangle offense that Phil was running was set a lot of screens, and we had the option of rolling to the basket or stepping back. And obviously, if there was no one at the basket, I would roll to the basket, set myself up there. But a lot of times the center would be clogged in the middle, and I would just step out 15 feet and basically shooting foul shots my whole life from the sidelines, and it worked out.
Yeah, was that a particular skill that you practiced over and above what the average player would of your height, the outside jump shot or the mid-range jump shot? Because it was a feature of your game pretty much throughout most of your, well, at least the career, parts of the career I've seen you play. So was that something you kept on working with?
I worked on it a lot, my shot, and I also worked on my low post game. Now, no, I wasn't the best post-up player. I didn't have the best moves. I had a little right-hand hook shot, little fake over the shoulder turnaround jump shot. But, you know, especially when you play with the Bulls and you're trying to open up driving lanes, and that's where Luke Longley and I were contrasting centers. He was a good low post player, took up a lot of space both on offense and defense, and had a nice little hook shot and some post moves, whereas I could score from the outside. So we'd play the cat and mouse game where Luke would start the game off, clog things up in the middle. Then I'd pull the center out, open things up for driving lanes for Scotty and Michael to go down the lane. And it worked out well for the Bulls. So it was just something that my skill set fit into with what the Bulls were doing at the time or what they wanted to do, as did Luke's, and it complemented each other.
Yeah, definitely, most definitely. Now, when you first did sign with the Bulls in, I believe it may have been late September in 1993, I think MJ was still on the roster at that stage. He hadn't actually announced his retirement until early October. So was there any hint of MJ even leaving the team prior to the announcement or the news sort of breaking the night before he actually did retire? Were you aware of anything?
I was not aware of anything. I think there were a few people that were, and I think the team knew a little bit what was going to happen. I do remember one time working out at the Berto where Michael was there, and hey, oh my, it was good to see him. I hadn't seen him in a couple of years. And looking back on that, I'm thinking that he may have been there because he didn't work out. And he may have been there to say and tell management that he was done, but there was nothing said to me at that time, being that I wasn't on the team the year before. Maybe some of his teammates from the year before, B.J. Armstrong, Horace Grant, and Scottie Pippen may have known, along with the coaching staff and management. But as far as for myself and Steve Kerr and Tony Kukoc and the new guys who were on the team, nothing was said to us.
Okay, well, that's an interesting insight. Thanks for sharing that one with us. Probably one of the main games that people associate between you and your time at the Bulls and something at Madison Square Garden, no less, is the great double nickel game from Jordan, where he got his 55 points, where what you're famously quoted as saying, Michael and I combined for 57 points.
Yes. Don't forget that I got the game-winning basket.
Exactly right. That's probably the most important play of the entire game, is that everybody just collapsed on Jordan and then you were left wide open and slammed it home for the game winner. So can you perhaps just talk a little bit about that game for us, please, and just your memories of it?
It was a good game. Obviously, Michael was playing fantastic. It was his first game back at the Garden since he had retired and come back. And just about everything he was doing was terrific. I had been in the game a couple of times, didn't really get any shots or get anything going. But everything Michael did was golden that night. Luke Longley had gotten in foul trouble coming down the stretch, and so I was inserted in the game the last minute and a half or so of the game. And obviously the last play of the game was a little side screen for Michael to come over and able to get a shot or create a shot. And I don't know what Patrick Ewing was doing. For why he would go over and guard Michael Jordan. I mean, come on, the guy had 55 points. It wasn't like he had 100. Left me open at the basket. I just rolled down to the basket, and Mike was able to get the pass up and over the defense to me at the rim. And I got an easy bucket and ended up being the game winner. So it was a lot of fun. But really, to watch Michael play in that game was just absolutely fantastic.
He just hit on an amazing array of shots, just turnarounds and fadeaways. He just driving to the basket, hitting threes. It was just a crazy. But even though he was unbelievably on fire, you guys were down by maybe double digits at one stage during the game, from what I recall.
We came back in the fourth quarter. I think it was a close game the whole way, and they had the lead for most of it, I think. If I remember, I haven't seen it in a long time, but we did come back at the end. We took the lead. I want to say 4 or 5 minutes left in the game, and it was nip and tuck, back and forth. But that last basket there at the end was the sealer, so it ended up working out well.
No, for sure. And when you did jam that ball home, I can't remember who it was. It was Herb Williams, or I don't know who it was, but someone reached out and did try to sort of stop you from making the basket and did make contact with you, but obviously it was a no. The refs just swallowed the whistles at that stage. But do you remember who that was?
Charles Oakley.
Oh, it's Charles Oakley. So
yes.
So he's obviously quite an intimidating player, but obviously you've got the hiding on him. But he gave.
Oak was going to hit you no matter what, whether you deserved it or not.
Yeah, that's true, as evidenced by many of his highlights over the years. That's just one of the iconic moments as well of probably NBA history, when Jordan dished the ball off to you for the winning dunk. So it must be a great memory, even 17 years down the track, to know that you're part of NBA history.
Yes, obviously playing with Michael's phenomenal, but then to get a pass at the end of a game, to win a game in any player's mind is important. But to win that game, Michael's first game back at the Garden, he had 55 points. It means a lot, and it was a lot of fun to be a part of that team in that era where things were going so well.
That's very true. And afterwards, in the locker rooms, how was the media frenzy? Was there people everywhere trying to get interviews with yourself as well, following your heroics in the game too?
Not a whole lot. It was mostly Michael. I mean, everything was going around Michael, as deservedly so. Michael had a great game, and it was a little bit for me, but a little bit for me because I was a New York kid, coming from St. John's and playing in New York, having played in the Garden before and doing well. So, but it was mostly Michael, and I mean, 55 points doesn't happen that often.
No, that's very true.
I had 5 points in about 15 games.
Sorry, what was that? You had that many points in 15 games?
Yeah.
At least you scored some NBA points. I could only dream about it. So, it's more luck to you.
The Knicks and the Bulls tied at 111. 14 and 6/10 seconds to go. Chicago does have a full timeout and a 20 remaining. Knicks have one timeout left. Jordan Starks lost his footing here as Jordan, and a surprise sets up Wennington. 3 seconds to go.
I wanted to just ask you about, in the 1996-97 season, Australia's own Luke Longley had a surfboard injury, probably about 10 or 12 games into the season, just before a game against the LA Clippers, I think it was. And he missed about 6 or 8 weeks with a separated shoulder or something similar to that. I think in his absence, you must have stepped up and got a few starts while he was sitting on the bench. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I played while Luke was out, held the spot warm for him till he got back. But, we had a nice thing going with the Bulls. As I alluded to earlier, we complemented each other, and Luke was the middle guy, and I was more of the pull him out, spread him out guy. And I did relatively well while I was in there starting. My numbers went up, but again, we had a nice formula working before that, and as soon as Luke got back and healthy, we went back to it.
Of your 3 championship seasons that you played with the Bulls, do you have a particular? I mean, the 72 wins is going to be obviously very tough to overlook, but do you have a particular favourite season, or that would just be streets ahead? It would be 95, 96.
95, 96 is straight. Obviously, for most things in life, when good things happen, the first time it happens, it's one you tend to remember the most. Girlfriends, things like that, first years of school, your first car. You remember those things. And the first championship really was special with 72 wins. We only lost 10 games the whole year. So there wasn't much negative about it. And that was really an enjoyable dream season. That hasn't happened since. And I'm one that says it could happen again. There's many people that say it'll never happen again, but I think anything's possible, but that was a lot of fun. It was very special.
I'm hoping, I'm a biased diehard Bulls fan, so I hope it does never get beaten, that 72-10 record. It was just fantastic. But you never know. It is a possibility down the track, I suppose. Even people are talking about this season's Lakers team with the signing of Steve Nash and now getting Dwight Howard to join the team and having Kobe, of course, still. That people are saying that they may be able to eclipse it. But a lot of things have to go right over the course of a season for them to even have a chance to get 73.
I agree. I think they can have a good team. I don't know if 73 is in the cards. There's, especially the first year, a lot of adjusting having to look at Miami. They won this past year, but 2 years ago, when everyone thought they were going to win, it took them a little adjustment period. And we'll see what happens. The Lakers are a good team. I picked them to be the team coming out of the West, and mostly because I like what Steve Nash does to them. He'll be able to keep everyone happy on the floor, keep Kobe happy, keep Dwight Howard happy getting the ball. I mean, you got two guys that have been leaders of their teams, and Dwight Howard and Kobe Bryant, that both need the ball in their hands a lot. And it's going to be different when they got to share the ball that much. And don't forget, somehow you're going to have to mix Paul Gasol in there and keep him happy with his touches.
Very, very true. At least Steve Nash does like to dish the ball around, and he's also a fellow Canadian, so that can it's always a nice link back to yourself as well.
We're actually the opposite ends of the spectrum for Canadians. Yeah, he's the short, good-looking guy with hair. I'm the tall, ugly guy with no hair.
I wouldn't say that. I'll let you say that. I do have a question about the 1997 playoffs and finals. Unfortunately, you missed due to injury. How tough was it for you to sit on the bench and just watch the team win their second consecutive title while you were just there in street clothes?
It was very difficult. Obviously, as a player, you want to play. And unfortunately, for the first 2.5 rounds, I really couldn't play. I wasn't able to play. But by the conference championships and the finals, I probably could have done a little bit out there, but I wasn't 100%. So I have no problem with the decision as much as it hurts. I mean, you want to go into the playoff. You want to have, at that time, 12 bodies that can play. Now, with the way the rules are, you can rotate players in and out. Your 15-man roster, you can have guys in and out of the roster. But at that time, you had to lock in 12 guys. So I understood the move. It was difficult not to play. But I tell you what, it was fun to go to all the games and be able to sit back a little bit and see what's going on around you and understand the hype of the playoffs and see it from outside the locker room, so to speak, because I was able to kind of separate and go and see things that I normally wouldn't see being a player, because I'd have to be down on the court and getting ready for the game before the game. And I was able to go out and just kind of wander around a little bit and see some of the outside things and preparations going on away from the court.
Sure. And what was your view of the famous flu game of Jordan in Game 5 of those 97 finals? Just as sitting on the bench there watching as your teammate out there on the floor, and just the amazing things that he was doing, given how sick he appeared in the lead up to the game. What were your thoughts about his performance that day?
Well, I got there about 2 hours before the game, and he was hooked up to an IV and looked as chalky white. And I'm thinking to myself, we're in trouble tonight because he's not going to play. But then the Bulls equipment manager came over and said, no, don't. John Ligmanowski said, don't worry about it. He's played sick before. You watch what happens tonight. He's going to play great. And he did. And it was amazing to see him on the bench, where he'd be on the bench during timeouts and just looked like he was really ill. And he did have a high fever. It was over 101. So looked like he was just going to collapse. But then that bell sounded. The referee came over and said, let's go. Something happened. He was able to fight through it, push himself up and get out on the floor. And then every time there was a whistle, I mean, I'm sure you've seen the pictures and the videos of Scotty kind of just helping him over to the bench.
Yeah.
He was just drained. And then after the game, he hooked up to the IVs again and went to bed. I mean, he was just out, but somehow was able to compete.
Yeah, that's an iconic moment, I guess, when Jordan is sort of being helped off the court by Pippen as they head back towards the bench there, and somehow he is getting he hit a massive three-pointer near the end of the game with about 20 seconds left to put Chicago back ahead, and he was just getting tipped dunks, and the energy that he somehow found, given how sick he was, is just an amazing effort.
Yeah, there's people have come up to me and asked and said, "Oh, he really wasn't that sick," and I just look at him and go, "No, you have no idea. He was that sick so much that you and I would be at home and miss a week of work. Is how sick he was, but he was able to compete that day and get it done."
That's just a fantastic insight to hear that from a player on the roster at that time. So I'm really pleased that you're able to share that information with us. Thanks again. And the following game was the game where Steve Kerr, another dish off from Jordan to Steve Kerr this time, who hit the massive 16-foot jumper from straight ahead to pretty much seal the title for the Bulls. Then again, how was that moment back home in Chicago, no less, to witness that?
That was a lot of fun because the previous year we had won away, and we won at home there in the locker room and be able to celebrate at home. Oh, sorry, we did beat Seattle at home, but it was a good timing because we had a bunch of role players, and Steve was coming off the bench, and Steve had a tough time a little bit earlier in that game, but came over in the timeout, and I remember him talking and telling Michael, "Hey, if they leave me, I'm open, and I'll hit it." And Michael knows his teammates and knows what they can do, and was able to get Steve the ball in rhythm going towards the basket right around the foul line. And Steve didn't disappoint, nailed that shot and made it work. And that was really, when you go back and look at that whole team, we had a lot of guys on the team that had specific roles that went out there and understood what they had to do. And night in and night out, they did it. And you could talk about, we talk about Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and Tony Kukoc, Ron Harper and Dennis Rodman, really are the six guys, and Luke, five guys that really did it. Then Luke Longley as the starting center. The rest of us were all role players. And you go from Randy Brown, Dickie Simpkins, Steve Kerr, Judd Bushler, myself, and the various guys that came in throughout the 3 years. We all had roles to do, and we understood what they were and went out and did them. Now, every single one of us wanted to play more and worked hard every day to do that. But we also understood that to be a part of a winning team, a championship team, we had to perform our roles night in and night out and do them well. And I give a lot of credit to Steve because he went out there in a tough situation in a big time where there's a lot of pressure and did what he was supposed to do and finished the game for us.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And it's a great win. He's one of the most pure shooters probably the NBA has ever seen as well, I suppose, from long range too. I've got a couple of questions from a few Twitter people, if you don't mind me asking a couple of have asked.
I saw your 500th tweet.
Oh, you did see my 500th tweet. Oh, very impressed. I had a direct message from someone called George Ling, and he has asked the question, will you ever make your Bulls camcorder footage available? He's referring to, there was a Primetime Live story feature about the Bulls back in about 1996, where it shows you with your handheld camcorder taking a bit of footage of the Bulls during that season. Will you ever release any of that footage to be seen by the masses?
I never say never. I'm in a process now. I've got put it over onto DVD as film doesn't last forever, videotape doesn't last forever. But I have no plans to do it yet. But you never say never.
That's true, and I guess it will obviously hold a lot of sentimental value, given that you were there experiencing it as a member of that, well, the Beatles of basketball, I suppose, at that time. So it's obviously some pretty special moments that you might want to keep to yourself anyhow.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. A lot of bus scenes, a lot of behind the scenes in the locker rooms, guys getting ready for games. It was some good stuff. Nothing with the way television and reality TV's gone. Nothing that would support that as far as the Jersey Shore type stuff goes on. But it's a lot of fun, sentimental stuff for me.
Yeah, for sure. And I had another question a few weeks back now when I first mooted the fact that I might have been talking to you. Another Twitter user, Blair Henry, has asked the question, which individual finals game was your favourite of the ones you played in? Do you have a particular favourite finals game?
I don't have a particular favorite. The Seattle series, again, because it was the first time, was a lot of fun. And I was actually Detlef Schrempf was on that team, and I was a rookie with Detlef Schrempf in Dallas.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun for me. Then the finals, I didn't play in 97. 98 was fun, but it was different fun because we kind of knew it was coming to an end.
Yeah.
The whole theme of that year was Last Dance, and Phil had told us before the season to enjoy it. So kind of coming out and then seeing Michael hit that shot in Utah at the end to win it really did signify the end for us. But the whole journey was terrific.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of the Last Dance, the Eastern Conference Finals against the Indiana Pacers, that 7-game series, that was remarkably tough, and you were playing against your former St. John's teammate, Chris Mullen. How can you just perhaps relay a bit about how that series went and any interaction you may have had with Mullen over the course of that series, either on or off the court?
Well, I went to his house for dinner a couple times during the playoffs.
Yeah.
It was fun. And when we step on the court and you compete, and it is nice to have friends in the league on different teams, and you go and compete and you really battle, and you got a little bit of bragging rights for a little while. Obviously, Chris was a tremendous player in the Hall of Fame. Was a much better player than I am or ever was. But for the Bulls to win that series was big, because that was probably the best playoff series that we had.
Yeah.
Throughout all the playoffs. It did go 7 games. It was a battle every single game. And Indiana was a terrific player. Rick Smits was the starting center there. They had Antonio Davis and Dale Davis they were basically the 3 big guys that you had to deal with every night. Actually, they're starting front line. But it was just a battle every night, and a lot of fun to be. Obviously, a lot more fun when you win a series like that. But it was very good.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention Mark Jackson, of course, was a member of that Indiana team in 1998 as well. So even more adding to the interest and links back to previous days in your career. There were some fantastic games in that series against the Pacers. Some really close ones, and obviously the game where Reggie Miller clearly pushed off on MJ to get that possible game-winning shot from deep at Indiana when MJ put up that desperation 3 that rimmed out. That was a fantastic game. And again, coming down to Game 7 back in Chicago, again, you guys were down, I think, double digits quite badly early on in the game, and just had to keep fighting your way back into it. And Luke Longley ended up hitting a big shot from memory late in the fourth quarter, which was probably a great moment for him as well to sort of help secure the win at that stage.
It was big, and that was we were very happy for Luke, because that was a big moment for him, obviously. But Rick Smits was one of his nemesis. We played in the same conference, the same division. Rick Smits was probably one of the few guys that was taller than Luke.
Yes.
Luke being 7'2".
Yeah, because Smits is 7'4", isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was always a battle for Luke going against Rick, and they played it. But for Luke to have a big part in that win was special, not because he's my friend.
Yeah.
And really did a good job and helped secure the win for us. But it was a battle, and you said we were down by a lot early. I think by the third quarter we'd made it even or close and started pushing our way back into it. But it was a game for a long time that could have went either way.
Yeah, definitely. I think he ended up winning by maybe 5 points, 88-83 or something like that. So it was a very tough, hard-fought match. Just a few more quick questions, if you don't mind, before I wrap things up and let you go to do your own real-life things. Just about some post-retirement things. In 2004, I think it's correct, you released a book, Tales from the Bulls Hardwood. Was that about 2004? Does that sound right?
It's right around that time period, yes.
Yeah. Now, I haven't had a chance. I've been trying to track down a copy online, and it's very hard to come by now, but if I can ever source one, I'm certainly going to buy it. But I'd just love to know perhaps some of the tales that you might have mentioned in the book there that not many people were aware of. Are there any particular moments or stories you might be able to just relay to us about anything of note that you think that people might take an interest in, just for a moment or two?
It was, there's nothing earth-shattering in the book. It's a book that I wrote. My son was 12 at the time, that I would feel comfortable with him reading it. So there's no, if you're looking for dirt and 2 a.m. stories, there's none of that in there. It's a book that gives a little insight to the players on the team, the mood of the team, different scenarios that happened around different games. And really, you walk away after reading how close that team was and how well everyone got along. And when I look back on the good teams I was on, St. John's, the Dallas Mavericks in the beginning, and obviously the Chicago Bulls, and even in the end, the Sacramento Kings, teams are good more than just because they have talent on them. Guys have to get along well. The chemistry has to be right. And I give all the credit in the world to Phil Jackson and Jerry Krause for getting together, 13 to 14 guys 3 years in a row when I was there, and obviously 6 years, that got along.
Yeah.
Because as you can see, you can have teams that have great talent, but you really have to have that chemistry. And I will say this about the Bulls team. Everyone got along, and it was fun every day to go to work and work with everyone. There was not one guy on that team that didn't want to be there every day.
That's excellent to hear. Do you have any plans at all to perhaps write another book at any stage down the track about your basketball experience or just life in general?
No plans right now. I had fun writing that book with Ken McDill, who was actually a reporter at the time, and covered the Bulls. Okay. So it was good. But right now, I don't have too many plans. Maybe I'll talk about broadcasting and working with the great Chuck Swirsky.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, you're colour commentating with for Bulls Radio there and with Chuck, obviously, and you seem to have a great time and great chemistry together. So it sort of comes across really clearly when I'm listening, when I do have the chance to listen through online. What sort of preparation do you put in prior to each game in terms of at least studying who the opponent may be and what the stats are and things like that? What sort of preparation do you put in, Bill?
Well, you read what you can read online, different stories, the newspapers from the local town, from whatever city you're playing in, and you find out what's going on, obviously what the records are, what the trends are for that team. You talk to other broadcasters, other players and coaches a little bit if you can. You always have a little free time before the game, so if you can catch up with someone that you know from the other organization that you're playing, and maybe find out a little bit of stuff for why things are happening the way they are. It's hard when you're traveling with the team and you don't get to a city 2 or 3 days in advance all the time to do your homework like the national networks do, where they're doing 1 or 2 games a week, and they get to sit down and the league makes time for them to talk to players and find out what's going on. So we have to do a little bit more on the go. But if you sit around and you talk to the right people, you can find out most everything you need to find out.
Yep, sure. Just with the United Centre, obviously the Bulls' home, how does the United Centre hold up today, 18 or so years on, compared to the new state-of-the-art arenas? Do you think it still holds its own at the moment?
I absolutely do. I really think that both the Bulls and the Blackhawks, who own the United Centre, have done a phenomenal job in maintenance, keeping it up to date, and there are even still more plans to fix it up and make the whole United Center area, that hub, a nicer place to be, a better venture to go to participate in either a basketball game, a hockey game, or a concert, whatever might be going on at the United Center. So it really stands up because there's a lot of arenas that are newer that have not weathered well. And for I don't know how they've done it, but they've kept a great crew in there to keep it clean and neat, and everything is very appealing.
Oh, that's excellent. I was fortunate enough to go to Chicago. I went on an NBA tour with some other basketball fans back in 1994, just prior to the United Center opening. So I was at the old Chicago Stadium and really enjoyed it. But obviously there's a big difference between how the Chicago Stadium was and in terms of comfort and but what it lacks in comfort, it made up for in atmosphere, even with Jordan retired at that stage. Still got to see the Bulls play the 76ers, and I think it was Sean Bradley at the time was the starting centre for the Sixers as the rookie sensation, as he was dubbed back then. And it was a great atmosphere, even for about a 25, 30-point blowout game that we just happened to see. It was really good inside the old Chicago Stadium. But hopefully one day I'll get to the United Centre and maybe even catch a Bulls game and just get to meet you in person.
That'd be very nice. You're always welcome if you could do it while I'm still around.
No, for sure.
Let's see if we can get you in the game.
No, that'd be fantastic. I've just got one last question for you. It's been really great chatting with you, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time, so thanks again. My last question for you is, do you have any ambitions down the road to perhaps coach at any particular level of basketball?
Well, my son is 21. I coached him when he was younger. I could see a day where I go back and maybe coach in high school, at the high school level. But right now, I love my job. Working for the Bulls has been phenomenal. Staying involved in the NBA game has been absolutely terrific, and really a dream come true for someone that loves basketball. You get to watch the game every night and see the best players in the world compete and work hard. Has been absolutely terrific for me. So, and again, the Bulls organization has been phenomenal to work for as a player and even now as an employee and broadcaster. So I have no plans to leave my position right now, and hope to do this as long as I can.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's great. I made a slight liar of myself. I'm going to ask one more final question. I think it would be remiss of me to not mention how is Derrick Rose going with his, as far as you're aware, with his rehab, and saw some video clips of him quite recently where he was quite emotional talking about at the launch of perhaps his shoe line or something like that. He was talking about how appreciative he was of his fans, and he was getting quite emotional just talking about how he's looking forward to his return to the game. What's your thoughts on the latest with D. Rose?
Well, I don't know when you're going to actually air this, but Media Day was yesterday, and I was not there. I'm in my summer house. Just had Parents' Weekend with up at Boston College with my son. But Chuck Swirsky was there, and I was talking to Chuck, and he said Derrick is very upbeat, very positive about his progress, feels really good about the way things are going right now, and is still working hard and adamantly to get himself back in the best possible shape and as soon as he can. But again, I'm paraphrasing now, and it's my words, my thoughts. It's something that you want to take care of. You want Derrick to come back at full strength and not have any relapses. So it's not something you want to rush and bring back. As we all know, when you get injured, you can come back and compete, but it's still going to be sore and hurt. And I'm sure Derrick's very well aware of that and is willing to compete. But you don't want him to have a relapse where he's going to miss more time once he's back. So I almost think it's better to have him miss a little bit more now so that he doesn't miss more later.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And I wish you and the Bulls all the best going forward for the next season, and hopefully they can go deep into the playoffs and cause a lot of noise, make a lot of noise. So thank you once more for taking the time to chat to me. I can't believe it. I'm thrilled to be able to speak to an NBA champion, and well done on your career and all you've achieved. And again, thanks very much for speaking to me today, Bill.
My pleasure, Adam. Thank you, and all the best to you. And you know where I am now.
I do indeed. Thanks again.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show, and share my web address with your friends and colleagues, inallairness.com. Check out the podcast archive for plenty more episodes with high-profile guests. Follow me on Twitter @inallairness. Please visit the show's social hub, facebook.com/inallairness. Join me next time for another edition of the show.